Why do we root for bad guys? Why do we admire people we know are wrong? Why did millions of viewers continue supporting Walter White long after he became a murderer? Why is Darth Vader one of cinema's greatest icons? Why do we sympathize with Michael Corleone or Loki or even Macbeth when each one of them becomes responsible for terrible crimes? Shouldn't villains repel us? Instead, they fascinate us, and that's no accident. The greatest writers don't create monsters, they create people. People whose flaws slowly become their downfall. Today, we learn the secret behind every great villain by exploring one of literature's oldest and most powerful ideas, the tragic flaw, or as Aristotle called it, hamartia. I'm Smitha, and welcome to Between the Lines, where we discover not only what great writers say, but how they reveal the truth about human nature. Think about the villains you barely remember. They are evil simply because the story needs an evil character. They crave power, they destroy things, they laugh maniacally, and then they are defeated. We rarely think about them again. Now think about the villains you can never forget: Walter White, Anakin Skywalker, Macbeth, Michael Corleone. None of them begin as villains. They begin as people, good people, loyal people, even admirable people. So, what changes? Over 2000 years ago, the Greek philosopher Aristotle noticed something remarkable. The greatest tragic heroes don't fall because they are completely evil, nor do they fall because fate randomly punishes them. They fall because of a single flaw within themselves, a flaw that grows until it controls them. He called this hamartia, often translated as the tragic flaw. But hamartia isn't simply a weakness, it's usually a strength taken too far. Confidence becomes arrogance, love becomes obsession, loyalty becomes blind devotion, ambition becomes tyranny. The very quality that makes someone extraordinary can also destroy them. Take Macbeth. When Shakespeare first introduces him, he isn't a murderer. He's Scotland's greatest hero. The captain calls him Brave Macbeth, valor's minion. King Duncan rewards him with honor. Everyone admires him. Macbeth doesn't lack courage. He has too much of it. His hamartia isn't evil, it's ambition. And Shakespeare makes something very important clear. Ambition itself isn't wrong. Without ambition, there would be no discoveries, no inventions, no progress. The problem begins when ambition loses its moral boundaries. When the witches awaken Macbeth's imagination, they don't create his ambition, they reveal it. Lady Macbeth sees it immediately. She recognizes that Macbeth wants the crown but lacks what she calls the illness should attend it. He desires success without committing murder, like a cat that wants the fish without entering the water. So she attacks not his plan, but his identity. Art thou afeard? When you durst do it, then you were a man. She transforms murder into a test of his masculinity. Macbeth's greatest battle isn't against Duncan, it's against himself. That's why Shakespeare still feels modern. Walter White doesn't begin as Heisenberg. He begins as a father trying to provide for his family. Anakin Skywalker doesn't seek darkness. He wants to save the people he loves. Michael Corleone doesn't want power. He wants to protect his family. Each one makes one understandable decision, then another, until eventually there's no way back. The greatest villains rarely wake up and decide to become evil. They convince themselves that they are doing the right thing, and that's what makes them terrifying. Not because they are different from us, but because they are so much like us. Perhaps that's why we continue rooting for them. We recognize something familiar. Who hasn't allowed ambition to cloud judgment? Who hasn't justified a poor decision? Who hasn't convinced themselves just this once? The difference isn't that Macbeth is a monster. The difference is that Shakespeare allows us to follow every step of his thinking. We understand him even when we cannot approve of him, and understanding creates empathy. Perhaps the greatest villains aren't those who are born evil. Perhaps they are ordinary people whose strengths slowly become weaknesses, whose virtues become obsessions, whose choices gradually reshape their identity. That's why Macbeth continues to fascinate audiences 400 years later. Because Shakespeare isn't asking, how does someone become a villain? He's asking something far more uncomfortable. Under the wrong circumstances, could any of us? If you enjoyed this exploration of literature and psychology, subscribe to Between the Lines. Next time, we'll uncover another timeless idea hidden inside the world's greatest stories. Until then, keep looking, keep questioning, keep reading Between the Lines. Literary Analysis with Smitha. Thank you for joining me.